On October 21st, IBJ unveils the 2025 Women of Influence. Join us to celebrate Indy's most inspiring leaders and hear the powerful stories behind their success. Don't miss this moment. Register now at ibj.com/influence2025.
Hello and welcome to the Indiana Lawyer Podcast. I'm your host, Maura Johnson, and in today's episode, I sit down with Erin Hall, Executive Director of the Neighborhood Christian Legal Clinic right here in Indianapolis. Since 1994, the clinic has been addressing the needs of underserved residents in Indianapolis and beyond through one-on-one legal assistance in areas such as housing, immigration, reentry, and veterans services. In this episode, we discuss how the clinic provides these services, what services are most pressing for residents, and how attorneys and volunteers can get involved with the clinic's mission.
Taft, today's modern law firm. At Taft, we cultivate a highly respectful, transparent workplace that fosters creativity, teamwork, inclusion, and diversity. We couple our culture with a client-first approach, rewarding lawyers who understand their clients' goals and work to deliver success. Taft, the modern law firm. To learn more, visit taftlaw.com.
Erin Hall, thank you so much for joining me today.
No, you're welcome. I'm glad to be here.
So just to start out, can you start by explaining what exactly the Neighborhood Christian Legal Clinic does and who it serves in the community?
Yes, so we're excited to be a part of the community. I know for me, I'm a lifelong resident of Indianapolis. I've been familiar with the clinic over the history of my legal career. Neighborhood Christian Legal Clinic has been around for over 3 decades and provides critical access to legal advocacy with its mission to advance justice through legal representation and education as a way to demonstrate Christ's love. We feel those two arms are important because legal representation helps those who already have a legal need, and the legal education is truly preventative and hoping to help people from developing a legal need by being smarter and more informed about some of the circumstances that they're facing and how to respond to them. And then our vision, which I love, is justice for the vulnerable so that all may flourish. Our neighbors are members of our community, and we're all in this together. So a 2019 Indiana Civil Legal Aid study revealed that 1 in 5 low-income families face a legal challenge each year. And this number is only rising with our lives becoming more and more litigious, more based on contracts, more agreements. And of those 1 in 5 families facing a legal need, which is 20%, 96% of low-income legal need goes unrepresented. And that's true with us in existence. So we know we're a critical piece of the puzzle, but we know that the need is astounding beyond us, that we're not even scratching the surface with all of legal aid put together in central Indiana. Often in cases like eviction proceedings, the opposing party, in that case would be a landlord, they are well represented. So this creates a huge disadvantage for those facing a legal challenge alone. And there's fewer than one attorney for every 10,000 low-income Hoosiers. So we believe that we stand in the gap. We're serving those in most critical circumstances, trying to prevent their economic stability from leading to housing instability, and helping bridge that gap so that they can get resources to get back on their feet and to flourish.
Absolutely. Those numbers are staggering, honestly. And I know that the clinic offers a few different kind of programs. I know you talk about housing, obviously, and the taxes and immigration. Can you kind of just touch on the different programs that the clinic provides?
Sure. Well, as you've already hinted, our clinic staff and volunteers are right there in the trenches of small township small claims courts. For those of you who don't know, these are eviction courts. We're there alongside those at risk of losing their housing, preventing evictions where possible, and supporting settlements and agreements where a housing transition needs to occur, like someone can't pay their rent. But even then, we can often reach an agreement which helps them have an eviction on their record, which would prevent them from getting a future place to live. We can also help with habitability issues and eviction sealing and that preventative legal education. So that's just our housing team. In addition to that, the clinic operates a reentry justice program that supports criminal record expungement and driver's license services to really help with economic stability for those who have turned their life around. We offer, as you hinted, a low-income taxpayer clinic, also called an LITC. Our taxpayer clinic assists primarily with taxpayer controversies. So we return money that has been unjustly given to the IRS, and we prevent people from having to pay money not due and get this garnishment stopped so that they have that income back in their household. We also do have a humanitarian immigrant and survivor justice program that saves lives. It assists eligible victims with access to legally available immigration benefits that help themselves and their families get a fresh start, and again, supports that economic viability. Our Veterans Justice Program is a little unique in that it provides a broader menu of services based upon someone's veteran status. So like our housing program provides housing services. Our Veterans Justice Program might provide housing services, some family law assistance, veterans benefits assistance. So it provides service to those who have served our country based upon their status as a veteran, and again, seeks to help them achieve economic and housing stability. And then because these programs are specific and the need is so great, we have really focused on growing and expanding our Consult with a Lawyer program. So we still offer sort of legal triage through a partner organizations like Shepherd Community Center once a month. But every Monday, we offer walk-in legal triage on any legal issues starting at 9 a.m. This is a great way for folks to connect with us, either with people who need to talk to a lawyer or volunteers who would like to help support that program so that we can turn away fewer people and see more people. But typically, we'll help between 4 and 8 individuals every Monday with a legal crisis they find themselves in. And we may not take that case if it's not something that we can't provide additional support on, but we at least triage the issue, give them some legal advice, help them understand their legal problem, and connect them to referrals if it isn't something that we can handle through our program or through a volunteer.
I really love, just to kind of go back to the Consult with a Lawyer program, I really love that mission of just getting this one-on-one help, and even when the problem may be just beginning or not yet. Can you just kind of talk about thus far the impact that you've seen from this program and being able to offer these services weekly?
Yeah, I think we were surprised by the numbers. We're on track in a year's time to serve over 400 individuals with just access to legal consultations. And if you think of it in terms of like an upside down pyramid, we can only go deep with a few people in terms of the fewest number of legal services where we take them on for a long time and help them through a full case that might take 15 years or so. And then, there's sort of limited legal representation up from there. But across the top, there's this broad legal need. And our goal is to stand in the gap and at least provide that access to be able to ask an attorney, like, hey, this happened. We're surprised the issues that come in. Not surprisingly, a lot of them are housing related, family law related, where there's limited access to legal aid for those needs. But specifically, a lot of estates issues come in. Folks that are living in a home where someone has passed away and the estate is held up and they're on a fixed income and they're just trying to maintain and sustain, a parent or family member's house and the cost associated with it, while everything feels stuck in a probate situation. And so that's not something that you usually think of as a legal aid problem, but it points out that not only is it impacting and providing support for, housing and family law, which we know our needs and would otherwise not have anyone available to help someone maybe connect to, forms available through Indiana Legal Help, but it's helping reveal patterns of need that we may not have seen, which helps us strategically try to create programs and seek support to be able to help specifically in those areas and design legal services around them. We're surprised at the numbers we're helping. I think it's a great place for volunteers to come do pro bono hours. We're excited for the potential opportunity for, allied legal professionals, if that program rolls out, for us to be able to bring, non-lawyers in to help do some triage and limited work. But basically just trying to constantly look at efficiently, how can we take what we have, the resources that we have, and provide them to as many people possible. And this allows us to have a broad reach with, limited investment of time.
And speaking of reach, I know that you mainly serve the Indianapolis community, but does the services kind of expand statewide? What does your reach look like in other parts of the state?
They do. And one of the things that the clinic has spent the past couple of years on is working on technological efficiencies, which, doesn't sound too exciting. But our goal in building a solid case management system with portal access is to provide more streamlined access for those who not only can't meet with us physically in person, but perhaps due to time restrictions. A lot of income disadvantaged individuals particularly have trouble with, can I get there during the workday? I can't take time off work. I don't want to risk losing my job on top of everything else going on. And so we've developed some online portals, for example, for our expungement help desk that have seen intakes happen at 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning when people get home, as well as from other counties. And so our programs while some of our programs like immigration have always had a statewide reach, just because the need is so great, people will come to us and seek our help. And then we have an online legal help tool, which can give some general, again, question and answer style resources to those who aren't here. All of our programs are increasingly creating this online portal access to allow a broader statewide reach. And we're seeing that in this year's numbers.
What are you seeing as maybe the most pressing issues that your clients are facing in 2025 specifically?
Sure. I think housing, 100% housing law continues to be the main point. It's just the perfect, if you will, intersection of rising costs, stagnant incomes, less available low-income housing opportunities, and then that coupled by, especially in Indiana, typically being a landlord-friendly state, for a long time, landlords going to court represented with people facing eviction not having the option. So once someone gets an eviction on their record because they don't know, maybe they can come up with a move-out agreement, or they don't have support to keep that off their record or get an old eviction sealed, in a competitive environment, their applications are not going to be considered. And so it makes it harder and harder then find subsequent housing. There's more families living in hotels, more homelessness. So I think housing continues to be the number one area we see that need. It's why it's the focus of our fundraising event this year. And second to that, only because I think legal aid finds it particularly challenging to address, would be family law. Family law needs are often a variety of needs within a family law case, and they often go on over time, especially when there's children with new issues arising, and it's hard to scope those services. And so I think legal aid providers find it challenging to provide support in family law proceedings. And, we certainly, things like economic and housing crises, I think, exacerbate family crises. So we continue to see that need be very high as well.
Especially this year, some federal decisions have impacted maybe how the clinic operates. So can you talk about that? If any federal moves have impacted what the clinic has been doing this year?
Sure. I think we've been fairly fortunate. We've been at the table with some who have been less fortunate than us. As far as, our current funding has remained steady, I think the most direct impact is us thinking towards the future. There's just so much uncertainty around what the priorities will be, what will happen with future funding. When a grant comes up for renewal that's been renewed several times, is the funding going to be there? Are the applications going to be reviewed differently? Certainly they'll be more competitive. So I think we're in a fortunate place for that to be where we're at. There has been more administrative work, I think, just to keep up with the requirements and changes, where our staff are spending time they would otherwise be spending serving a client, trying to figure out what the current regulations are, what benefits might be available for that client, if something's changed in terms of our documentation or the data that's being required from the funder or the grantor. But we certainly have been fortunate in that regard. Also, we have diverse revenue sources, and we depend a lot on community support, on the support of lawyers and law firms and churches and individuals to do the work that we do. So it's one of those things where there's the need always outweighs the resources. And when you talk about with us in existence, 96% of legal needs still going unmet, and we could grow 10 times our size and still not have scope creep or mission creep. Our community needs more lawyers in general, and our community needs more access to legal aid to see the kind of justice that we want and that we value.
How much of your staffing and services to clients is people on your team versus attorneys doing pro bono work with your clinic?
We are very heavily staff dependent. Attorney volunteer engagement is just not where it was, I think, 10, 15 years ago. And that's not just for us. I think that's true. When you have an attorney shortage, attorneys are very busy with their, trying to keep up with the need for their day job, if you will. And so, we always encourage attorneys like, hey, if you can give an hour here, an hour there, we can use you on Monday mornings, helping provide legal triage. You don't need to be an expert in all of these areas to help someone who doesn't understand a document that came in the mail, understand it and give them some resources. And we're even trying to be creative and make some of those options like virtual, where someone could provide some online legal help or follow up and schedule a Zoom session to meet with someone who needs some help. But we certainly are, I think, surprisingly staff driven in an area where we could expand our capacity without, having to raise a bunch of support to do so if we had more of attorney volunteers specifically be willing to engage in our work.
what you mentioned earlier about bringing in different volunteers and allied legal professionals is interesting, just because I think it is something that the state is looking at to kind of supplement the, what's happening right now with the attorney shortage. Do you have, any thoughts about that? Any, hope that you have for what could come out of approaching the attorney shortage?
I mean, I think we're just very encouraged by the fact that the state and the bar recognizes that enough that there's a need here, that they've taken initiative to try to innovate ways for us to meet that need. I think, it behooves every attorney to internally ask if they're doing their part as far as meeting that need. I know when I was not working for the clinic, it was hard for me to picture how someone who worked in a government practice area, gosh, what do I have to offer? How can I sit down with someone and, help them assess a housing or an employment law problem? That's not what I've been doing day in and day out. So I think a lot of it is getting comfortable with the idea that anyone who went to law school is at an advantage over a person who doesn't have a legal background and is facing a legal challenge. And so there are lots of resources available through Indiana Legal Help, through resources the clinic has or other legal aid providers have that can support you in providing resources, but you have something to offer. You have something to bring to the table if you have that law degree. And so we're excited to continue to engage this year, as we have the year before, more volunteers who are taking that challenge on and finding that absolutely they've been able to help someone and just have someone walk in anxious and scared and leave with hope and direction after a consultation. It happens every time. And so we would like to invite as many attorneys as we can in our community into getting to share that experience with us.
Talking about just attorneys working pro bono for you guys and just people reaching out, how can they reach out to offer their services to you to work with the clinic?
Sure. We offer that contact through our website, through nclegalclinic.org. There's a place to reach out to say that you're interested in volunteering, and our volunteer coordinator does a good job of giving kind of an in-person follow-up to find out what anyone's experience or expertise is, whether it's volunteering directly or being a support of expertise. If you know estates and probate and bankruptcy law and you've practiced in employment or consumer finance, areas that we don't have internal staffed expertise, that can be a volunteer opportunity as well, where you can maybe talk not directly to a client, but be able to provide some advice to our attorneys who want to help someone who walks in navigate through one of these issues. So, it can be a matter of determining when you can sign up, participating in an existing opportunity, or being a resource for other attorneys and volunteers who are here present with our clients.
Are there any programs within the clinic that you need more volunteers, more pro bono attorneys to support?
I think all of them. I mean, it would be safe to say. I think that some of it's challenging in, with immigration. It's helpful to have that immigration expertise, right? Like there are areas that it's hard to take someone who's willing to learn an area and train them in that area and have them help volunteer. But things like housing, which happen in small claims court, expungement, there's guidance that can be given on. If we have a cohort of interested volunteers, it's not hard for us to have a way to get them connected with that specific type of work, as well as just our general legal consultations being a good place to get familiar with us and familiar with what it's like to give legal advice in a legal aid setting. So a lot of folks would start there and then, connect with our staff and decide if they want to get plugged into a specific program.
And in terms of maybe non-legal help, is there any room for volunteers who don't necessarily have that legal background but could offer something else? I know maybe with the immigration specifically, with a translator or anything of that kind of realm.
Sure, absolutely. And I think right now we have probably more in-person volunteers who are non-lawyers than lawyers, which surprised me when I was kind of doing the math. But we have a volunteer who shows up several days a week and supports our resource navigator up at our front desk, helping provide resources and doing intakes to folks who walk into our office. So yes, we have plenty of non-lawyer volunteers engaged in our work, even our daily work. We have a resource navigator at our front desk who sits with our receptionist, comes in several days a week and helps do some administrative work, as well as provide resources and referrals for people who walk in. We have interns from undergraduate institutions like Butler who help do a lot of work for our attorneys, kind of as a legal clerk level. And we've had volunteers come in to support our events, to help write, notes of encouragement or prayers to clients. We have people providing spiritual support when it's needed, as we're a faith-based organization, also on Mondays. And then other opportunities here and there for projects like closing old files, setting up an event. So there are lots of ways in which non-lawyers can be engaged in the process as well. And we're developing those. Those opportunities will grow as our volunteers engage. So if we have, 5 attorneys on a Monday versus 2 attorneys on a Monday providing consult with a lawyer advice, we can have additional people there to help be their sort of hospitality team, find out what their legal issue is and help set them up well to talk to the attorney beforehand. So both are available, and I'm always excited, especially when our undergraduate students who are considering pursuing law school come have an experience with us and then find out that they're taking the LSAT and helping jump in with their career in their future to help address our attorney shortage.
I know that you have something coming up in November. Can you talk a little bit about that event and what it's kind of celebrating?
Yeah, we do. We have our annual gala, which this year is moving from Thursday night to a Saturday morning brunch. We're very excited about it. Our Justice for All event each year is a fun, exciting way to get connected and engaged and understand who we are and what we're doing. We always celebrate our success and share stories from the year so far. So we're revving our engines this fall to celebrate the victories and milestones of justice and those who made it possible with us at the Dallara IndyCar Factory and Experience Hub in Speedway, a good old Indy race-themed event on Saturday, November 8th. It'll be a bottomless mimosa brunch from 11 to 1. We hope that listeners will join us as Jimmy McMillan returns to drive home stories spotlighting the clinic's powerful work, especially in housing legal aid. And this year we welcome Fred Yakey, who's a trailblazer in education and affordable housing as well. There are opportunities to attend the event, to sponsor the event. If you're an attorney and you're excited about legal aid, if you're familiar with the clinic's mission and you want to get more folks engaged with us, you can sponsor a table, which will host up to 8 guests and have them attend. If your law firm is not already sponsoring us and wants to be a part of this, we certainly welcome that. And there's more information on our website as well. But it's one of our favorites. It's fun. It's encouraging to staff. So even attending, having that event be full of celebration carries our staff through the season to know that we have the support of the community behind us while we're in the trenches, helping people through hard things day in and day out.
And I know that we're kind of approaching the end of the year. So is there anything specific, maybe changes that the clinic is anticipating as we end the year and head into 2026?
I think this year has been a year of growth for us in terms of engagement from our community. So we're not anticipating any changes other than hoping to build on the work that we're already doing and continuing to take the resources that we have and help them reach more individuals. We've had success, as I said already, with launching a portal for our reentry help desks. It's helped those staff reach at least 20% more individuals this year, just by not having to do screening through walk-in appointments, but be able to pre-screen applicants and get some paperwork from folks online before they come in for an appointment, making staff time better used at doing the work that is necessary for a legal professional to do. We are expanding that to all of our other program areas. So we do hope to serve more individuals through efficiency. But my hope as we close out this year is that more individuals in our community would be driven to action by what we've seen going on around us and a heart for justice, and would believe that they can be a powerful part and would get engaged in legal aid in our community and helping our neighbors truly achieve some economic stability that benefits all of us.
Well, thank you so much, Ms. Hall, for joining me and speaking with me about this. I really appreciate it.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Indiana Lawyer Podcast. If you'd like to learn more about the Neighborhood Christian Legal Clinic, you can head to their website at nclegalclinic.org. And if you'd like to stay up to date on legal stories happening around the state, you can visit our website at theindianalawyer.com. There you can subscribe to our newsletters, find more podcast episodes from the Indiana Lawyer, and listen to podcasts from across the IBJ Media Company. You can also follow us on social media.
Hi, I'm Dave Neff, host of Talent Scout.
On this show, we shine a light on Indiana's next generation of leaders who are making a difference in business, community, and civic life. These are real conversations about purpose, mentorship, and building a future that matters. Join me as we invest in leadership that lasts. Subscribe now on your favorite podcast app or listen at ibjpodcasts.com.
Thanks for listening to this IBJ Media podcast. You're probably going to remember this ad. Do you know why? Podcast advertising works. 85% of listeners recalled hearing an ad during a podcast, and 70% of podcast listeners have acted after hearing an ad. So whether you're looking to be heard across the entire IBJ Media podcast network, sponsor one of our shows, or just start with a 30-second ad, IBJ Media can help. Contact advertise@ibj.com to learn more.